Get Into Geek. This is episode 159. We are talking Stargate Atlantis. We are up to season 1, episode 4. 38 minutes. Joining me, the Get Into Geek team, we got Muddy.
Hello.
We got Brendan.
Hello. Over in just the old gate room here and Stargate Atlantis.
There we go.
Yeah. Coming to us live from the Pegasus Galaxy. That's why you say
God, yeah. It's a hot and balmy 27 over here.
They don't have great broadband over there.
No, mate.
And also just supplying his laughter from I believe that is the diner. Yep, there we go. We got Lincoln. Welcome back.
G'day. How are we, legends? You little beauty.
I was going to say cafeteria. That was actually the word I was looking for. And diner was...
I was like,
is that a Summer Bay joke?
Yeah.
Because that's a bit old. That's an old joke. Like that.
I wasn't even thinking about that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right,
mate.
mate.
It wasn't what I was going for. Yeah. Now, for long-term listeners of the show, or anyone who's listened to us before, you will hear that we sound a little bit different because we are also in isolation because of the lovely Rona that's just engulfing the world and making us all sit home and do our own thing and,
COVID-19, pretty sure Rodney McKay would say.
You prick, you big ugly prick, COVID-19.
He doesn't want to pronounce it slightly differently. Does he pronounce the V as V or does he pronounce it as Ved?
He does it correctly as V.
Yeah, he would.
So, look, we're trying to do the right thing. I know here in Australia, we're limited to, social gatherings of, 10 people. They're also saying don't leave your house unless you don't have to, sort of thing. We're a group of 4 tonight. We could have easily went to the studio and recorded, but we're trying to do the right thing by ourselves, by our families, by everyone else, as everyone else should be. Another pissing me off right at the moment, or on social media, people are like, oh, my God, I'm in isolation. I'm like, no, you're at the beach. Okay, stop telling me that you're doing the right thing because there's you and 8 friends doing a yoga class in the park. Okay,
they're
you're not
legit in a massive group and all there with each other and whatnot. And they're like, oh, hashtag social distancing. And you're like, oh, you.
Yeah. Hashtag working from home. And I'm like, no. You've got a day off work is what you've got. You're not working from home, you spastic. So we're trying to do the right thing. We encourage everyone else to do the right thing. The sooner everyone does, the sooner this thing slows down and we can all get back to normal. We're trying to keep normal, though. That's why we're here to talk about Stargate. Here we are, 38 minutes, episode 4. We'll throw it over the old DVD synopsis, see what this episode's about. And then let's just rip on and see what we thought. Fleeing from a surprise encounter from the Wraith, the Atlantis team's Puddle Jumper speeds back towards the Stargate but becomes trapped when the Puddle Jumper suffers a mechanical failure. They have only 38 minutes before the Stargate shuts down, and with the front half of the ship already dematerialized in the event horizon, the Puddle Jumper will be cut in half. Written by Brad Wright, directed by Mario. As a party, we weren't invited, but not a bad little team.
Good bloke.
He directed the
party.
pilot.
We weren't invited.
He directed the pilot of SG1. And that was the last thing he did.
He directed the pilot of SG1?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And that's going back a while. He hasn't done anything since. I feel like I recognize the name, though.
Yeah, he did Children of the Gods and then Korai, and that's all the Stargate he's done. They brought him back.
Well, he did it right on the first attempt. He should have just
no wonder
left it at that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm the newbie out of all 4 of us here. I'm the newbie of Stargate Atlantis. So, you guys teased last week's 38 minutes. Obviously, in Stargate, mythology, 38 minutes means only one thing, that it was something to do with the gate. And I think I was thinking back to that one where Teal, what was the episode where he was like in the
48
hours.
48 hours, right? So I forgot that it was even a time-related title, but I was wondering whether it had something to do with that. I wasn't thinking in the sense of what was the black hole one? I'm forgetting names tonight really, really badly.
Time.
It's one of my favorite episodes.
Time.
Window of
Matter of Time. Yeah.
Funnily enough, I was about to say Window of Opportunity. I was like, no, that's just one of my favorites of all time.
Another great episode. Great episode. So it was more like that, I guess, in the sense that it was a problem with the gate, but also the fact that we were, one of our team was at risk. But I actually really dug this episode because I think is it the only SG anything episode to basically roll out in real time. And I'm speaking in behalf of my DVD wall right about here. underneath my Stargate stuff is 24. I'm a big fan of 24. I love my real-time drama. So for this one, 38 minutes, and basically it all rolled out up until, don't vomit there, Maddie, that's fine.
Is that above or below the Sex and the City DVDs?
As far as I'm concerned, that's not even there. That's my wife's, and I've told her about keeping it near my stuff. Okay, don't bring this up. So, yeah, I really like the real-time element, and also the fact that after, 8 and a bit seasons of SG1, we haven't seen this problem before. So that SGA, in its only 4th episode, we're covering brand new territory, which I think is really important for the spin-off to establish itself as not just being this carbon copy of a very successful, very beloved original series, that we get a problem that's very unique to Stargate lore, but also be very new after 150 odd episodes of the 2 shows together. I think it's really cool. Yeah,
well, it does to get it done. They do have to, I feel like, change the lore a little bit with that whole big thing that Grodin says about how the Stargate, transports units discriminately or whatever it is, like as a whole. We haven't seen that before. Like if you think about season 2 of SG1, I think it was, with Prisoners, where there was the food slop coming through as one whole, if it was now, it's like, well, shouldn't all of that food stayed in the wormhole until it was finished and then come out?
Yeah.
And then also was it, I think...
Well, maybe it did.
Well, that could have. The one that I'm really trying to get... Yeah, the one I'm really trying to get my head around is in 100 days, I think it was. Remember when Teal'c shot the harpoon gun with the rope on it through the Stargate to climb up? That wouldn't have worked in this scenario, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think I agree with you, because for me, a part of that rope in 48 hours, it's a continuous thing. So it's like a part of it would essentially be the jumper in this scenario. And then Teal'c was able to pull himself up. The rest of the rope's still back at the SGC when he's back on that planet in 100 days. So I just don't think that would work.
Having said that, I enjoy this episode so much more than 100 days. I'm willing to forget 100 days exists and go this as being the canon and go, yes, this is how Stargates work. And I guess the great thing about Atlantis is you can also hide behind the fact that it's like, well, this is a different gate system with digital gates instead of analog gates, so maybe they work a little bit differently. And I feel like that also is an in-world way of going, well, that's why it doesn't work exactly the same way it does in the Milky Way galaxy.
Another way you could look at it is also that the Puddle Jumper itself is Lantian technology. So they've probably designed it in a way that it is its own capsule, so it doesn't matter what's inside it. If half of it goes in, all of it has to go in.
Yeah, I think this episode, obviously, because we get 38 minutes where the problem is what can and can't pass through as a whole or whatever, to think about it. Whereas, like all these other examples we're throwing up, these were bit pieces in each of their episodes where we can think about the science behind the Stargate technology, but only for a second before we have to get back into the real story. This, I think, right at the end, once they got the alien thing off, just to jump really ahead in the episode, but once they got the what was the insects or the thing called?
The Aratus bug.
Aratus bug. Once they got that off, and I'm learning her name. I'm going to get Taylor. Took Shepard, and she sort of was like, I'm going to sacrifice.
Whore. That's her name.
Okay. All right.
That'll do.
Again, hang on. Sorry,
she will kick your
I want to change it. Hork face. Yeah, that's
wow.
That's a Will Ferrell skit, guys.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
I believe I've heard it before, but not enough to not think that was original to lovely.
It's
Taylor.
When Will Ferrell was introduced to James Lipton, played by Will Ferrell, and he's like, he's doing the survey. What is your favorite curse word? And he goes, no, wait. Can I change mine? Hork. I'll just write that down. That's Taylor's new name. I'll just write that down.
Right. That'll go in there with, General Mustache and Colonel Haircut.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's very special because you only get a nickname on Get Into Geek if you're like a one and done character. The fact that she's like a staple of this spin-off and she gets a nickname, like
one of the pinnacles, I dare say,
special.
of the team.
Yeah, you're right.
That's very special.
That's my bad, guys. Probably shouldn't do that. Anyway.
No.
No.
Let's change it, Lieutenant Ford, to Hawk. then.
No, it's Lieutenant who?
Lieutenant
Who?
Who?
So once Taylor takes Shepard through to sort of sacrifice herself in case nothing, the ship wasn't. It was like, hey, I'm going to go through. I'm essentially dead anyway if the ship doesn't get saved, and if it does, then at least I'm in there. And it's essentially a cryo stasis for Shepard, which I thought was so cool. Like, just jump in there, and because we're not going to rematerialize, he's basically frozen so that it'll stop his body from dying. Like, I just thought that was such a cool little add-on. But
Probably a little more like transporter stasis than cryostasis, if you want to.
Well, sure,
some other
sure.
great science fiction television programs.
That's one.
As you have a sip there, yeah, okay.
I didn't think I'd like this visual thing, but I'm actually.
Hang on,
actually
I'm
really
just going to
helpful.
put this in. That's one.
I found myself thinking, like, they'd obviously stated that them jumping through, that was going to be a stasis thing. But I found myself, as she jumped through, I was wondering, well, is that going to affect that? Like, that's when I started questioning the logic of the science of Stargate that we've just been learning about for like the last half an hour. I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if they thought they were going to be in some kind of stasis, but because they were going through by themselves and not connected to the ship sort of thing, would they like materialize back in at the base, and then like 5 minutes later McKay and the ship come through or something? I don't know why I thought that would possibly be possible.
Oh, like a delay.
Delay, but because I guess the ship as a whole was coming through, but I'm like, well, why couldn't something that was not part of the ship, I don't know whether they would have to like almost jump off the ground to be separated from the physical matter of the ship to be considered their own physical body in 100. I don't know. I just thought that would be, but
the way I think of it is like a fly in the car or a fly when you're on a motorbike. For some reason, it can fly right next to you, but when you take off, it's left way behind.
Yeah. I actually started, when you say a fly in that sort of analogy, like did anyone else hear that?
It's Lincoln. What are you doing?
Is that you, Link?
Sorry, I was trying to adjust my volume.
No, that's all right. That's right. When you actually say the fly, I actually started thinking of the movie The Fly with Jeff Goldblum.
Oh, even better.
Like, right. So he's that was like a teleportation thing, right? I haven't seen it in a couple of years, but like there was a fly just in that room, and because those two were in that tank together, they got merged. Whereas I was thinking, is this going to be the complete opposite of that, where the problem is they're on the ship and the ship gets stuck because it's split between half of it outside of the event horizon, half of it in the wormhole. But because they are going to almost separate themselves from touching the ship or something, was that going to help fix it? I don't know. I just thought this, even I'm still somewhat confused, but a lot of answers that I didn't know that I was ever asking questions about were raised and answered in this episode. I just thought, I guess it's because it's Brad Wright, like a Stargate, like OG brainchild sort of thing. Like, I just thought this is a really cool way just to play with some old lore that, the science of it that we've probably come to accept and don't even think about anymore. But it's like, no, we can actually dive deeper about this, and we don't even need to answer more questions because it's very advanced tech and we don't understand the ancients.
It's very, very
like
advanced.
Very, very advanced. Like Maddie was saying earlier, it's ancient technology with the jumper. So does that affect things? And maybe it could, and they could actually get away with Brendan. Oh, sorry, it was Brendan. Sorry.
I don't know if Brendan's next to me on your screen, but he is on mine, so that's why I'm doing
Happens a lot, mate. In this
Bunch
podcast, Matty gets a lot of the credit for the shit I say. Don't worry about it. Oh, no, I can't even name an example. But
to jump forward, how much of a hard is Shepard to actually say, I've got like a big alien venomous thing attached to my neck and shoot it off?
Yeah.
Literally saying, put a gun to it and shoot the gun off. You just be like, all right, like points to you. You are one hard.
Yeah, because he probably knows deep down that essentially this bug is probably going to clamp down at that point.
Yeah.
Hopefully he dies soon after that.
Yeah, and then Ford has to tell him, it's like, no, we already did, like 9 mil point blank, and it just healed from that, and you nearly died because it was sapping your energy.
Yeah, it was just sweet. It was just using him to heal.
That's
so it's like, oh man.
I had an issue, and I hate to say it, but I had an issue this episode with my beloved Dr. Weir.
How dare you?
What the f*** are you wearing?
Yep.
Like,
I was just thinking that because I got the episode on
No.
right now.
okay,
It's
so
so weird. Hey, I
did
actually
Jonas
asked Madonna
make-
that.
With the weird fucking thing that attaches here and it goes down like with the buttons up here and shit.
Yeah.
I've got two theories.
And
One,
And the zipper at the back.
yeah.
It's a
So
One,
what's that? There's a zipper at the back.
Do you get a onesie on?
one, either Jonas like made a secret trip to Atlantis and gave her a shirt to wear, or B, she opened up like a 10,000-year-old Atlantis woman's wardrobe, found a shirt, and went, I'm going to wear that. That looks great.
I'm watching it now. It's just like weirdest thing. And I'd love to see like the wardrobe have that check going. Okay, well she knew she was going to an alien universe. She might as well dress like one. It's like
Yeah, she went to a party shop and found an alien outfit. Anything silver and metallic, she just brought up and brought with her. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
So I'm glad it stays around for 1 or 2 episodes, but I'm glad it does disappear after a while and she goes back to her red uniform.
Yeah, they kind of just go, look, she's not really going to the office. They're in another galaxy, so it's just like maybe just chuck a shirt on.
Even at the end of the episode, like when Shepard's in the infirmary, like in the bed, and they're all like going to dinner. It looks like they're all kind of dressed up and they're all just like in their civvies. They kind of do away with that really quick in the show as well. You don't really see that very often. People sort of dressed up in their civvies like that.
Yeah, Shepard really digs his all black.
Yeah.
Later.
I know as the uniforms change over the seasons, I think he goes, nah, that's a bit too far-fetched for me. I'm just going to wear like black military, whatever they're called, not fatigues or whatever they are.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, my beloved Weir.
Just going to roll my sleeves up. We're in the Pegasus. Who gives a fuck? We're
Yeah.
a band. Like, really
Yeah, we're
represent
a wristband for some
the
reason.
bros.
I don't. Yeah. I was quite proud of myself. I included that in the little figure that I made. See, he's even got his own little
Oh,
nice.
yeah, I like
details or what?
I'm going to be honest. I didn't actually take notice of the uniform that we was wearing. Now, Brennan the other day on our socials did make a solid point about the start of the episode where we get introduced to Dr. Zelenka. Was it?
Boss.
That was his name. Yeah, right.
Radic,
And what I thought was, he's a touch with Brennan. He was actually born in Czech Republic and actually plays a Czech doctor, I believe. He said he was speaking Czech, Brennan. Is that the case? You know a little bit of Czech, obviously.
I know a tiny bit of Czech. And, like, obviously...
You've spent some time in Czech, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Hey? Yeah. There we go.
A bunch. At least two.
At least 2.
At least 2 minutes.
Yeah. You've holidayed there at least twice.
Collectively.
But Zelenka from because being a Stargate fan, if you want a partner, then they have to like Stargate, obviously. So I sat Dana down. She watched the Stargate movie, all of SG1, all of Atlantis. Didn't put her through Origins for obvious reasons. I mean, so when she likes Zelenka because he's Czech, and everything he says in Czech, he speaks in Czech eventually as well, is just swear words.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is awesome.
Isn't
Every
there like
time you see him frustrated, he's just swearing in Czech.
Yeah.
Isn't there one
That's
in season 2 where they're taking apart a Wraith dart and it's like, oh, it smells like a whale's vagina or something like that? Like,
there's a lot, and I said to Badana, "What's that?" And she's like, "It's just swear words." I'm like, "Come on,
give it up, give it up,
give it up."
That's the goal.
So every what I promised from now on is that if we hear a bit of Zelenka chat, I'm going to make her translate it for me.
oh, we do like Around the World 2.0. I love it.
Yes.
Well,
I would love to you know what? I want to have a stab in the dark and have a guess before Badana translates. I'll just be like, these kids are like, let's just see. I want to have a go at it first.
Love it. Down.
Yeah.
So
Change approved.
you say Around the World. I was going to bring that up because as part of Around the World, we did go to Czech, right? Because the show aired in the Czech Republic. Okay, so if this show aired in the Czech Republic, what do they do when they play this episode in the Czech Republic? They're probably not going to allow
M or MA or some shit.
They're not going to allow him to swear in their native tongue on an air for whatever their equivalent is of a PG or PG-13 show. I wonder what they did with that part of it. Did they even include that?
I know in Gilmore Girls there was a French character And they actually would have it. They would have it dubbed. They actually had the whole show was dubbed in whatever language. And when they dubbed it into French, they made the French guy German, so that in France the one guy that was different was German and not French.
Yeah.
But in Atlantis, they all wear their flags on their shoulder, so you can't pretend they're somewhere else. So yeah,
I have the answer.
Oh, brilliant!
Well, in Czech, they've all got, because Czech is such a unique language in terms of the world. There's probably only one country that understands it. Slovakia is probably the second.
And me, obviously, I speak it fluently.
Yeah. So, in Czech, they have famous voiceover actors. So this guy will always be Tom Cruise, and this girl will always be Scarlett Johansson. So in the show, they will have a guy speaking Czech. So for every character, it will be a different Czech person speaking. So depending on that, I think they will just change it to frustrating little sounds.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Because it's not like they necessarily have to say what the guy says in Czech.
It's not
like you'll hear. Yeah, you won't.
And half the time
hear
when he
Zelenka
does curse, he turns around and he walks away, and you
Yeah.
just see the back of him while he's just waving and doing that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
nice.
they can get away with it. You're right.
Something on the
so it's pretty
international,
cool.
something on the international contingent of Atlantis that I had a little bit of an issue with is everyone wears their country of origin patch on their shoulder. The funniest one being Weir, because she has such a strong Canadian accent, but she's playing an American. There's something that the fans noticed is obviously Dr. Beckett has the Scottish flag on his shoulder.
I love it.
Yet you see in this episode, there are people with the Great Britain Union Jack on their shoulder. Now, Great Britain includes England, Ireland, and Scotland. So if you were English, you would just have the English flag, which is the Red Cross.
Yeah.
So why would
St. George?
Yeah. So why would the Scottish doctor have the Scottish flag when someone else would have a Great Britain flag, which includes
I have the
England,
answer
Ireland,
for
and
that
Scotland?
too.
Oh, you do? Oh, excellent.
Americans.
I know where this is going already.
They're from Britain and they have a British accent.
Wow.
So that means English.
I thought you were just going to say Americans are dumb. I thought that was where you were going to go.
You said that for us.
Oh, no, I'm half American.
He's half American,
That's
so he's
fine.
allowed to. He's allowed to. It's fine. Yeah.
Like, I'm that far from being able to drop the N-bomb, you know?
Oh, good.
Oh, well.
Oh,
You know? My dad grew up in
good.
Chicago, you know?
So he owned slaves, is that what you're saying?
For anyone just listening to the podcast and not watching a video, Maddie just nearly spat whatever orange fluid you're drinking.
It's Cotty's Fruit Cup. Great people for the show.
Great
They
people.
definitely need to sponsor the show.
And we're not even just favouring the orange flavour. I'm open to all flavours. I'm partial to the red myself at Cotty's.
Oh, the kids love the green at this household. The green
Yes. You know what? I grew up a red fan, and I'm actually slowly turning into a bit of a green Cotty's fan. I don't know. I never thought I'd do it. Never thought I'd do it.
Sarsaparilla cordial. Sarsaparilla cordial is the way to go.
No,
that's
mixing it. Just talking crazy talk.
Red
God
and
damn it.
green together, the ultimate cordial. It's pretty good.
You do
My
that.
favourite,
That's like when people say, "Oh, chuck a whole bag of Maltesers into the box of popcorn and shake it around." It's like, why?
I
would
want to
actually
try
never
that
do
though.
that.
I've never done it, but I want to try it.
No, just eat 2 or 3 Maltesers, chew them up, and then after that, then have the popcorn, because then the salt will then give you the aftertaste after the sugar, and then you have a drink. Or you do one.
add
and
it
then
individually.
Yeah, man. We're not animals.
Exactly. That's what separates us from the monkeys. God damn it.
I mean, on the cordial front, like we grew up, like, you love a strong cordial. Come on, who doesn't love a strong cordial? Like, an illegally strong cordial. And we grew up, and our dad was like a cordial Nazi. Like, he'd get the water, and then he just sort of like add the tiniest little droplets of concentrate, and that'd be enough. Yeah, he couldn't do it. One day I saw him.
I'd rather water. I would honestly rather water at that point.
Don't give me coloured water when it's going to be tasteless. Just give me clear shit at this stage, mate. And he had a big hard day in the yard, and he's not a drinker, so he just come in and he wanted to. He doesn't even drink water that much, my old man. At least he didn't when we were growing up. So when he come in looking for like H2O as some kind of like sustenance, you knew he was thirsty. And so he'd been out there mowing and whippersnippering and doing shit. He comes in sweaty and dirty, and he just opens up the fridge like he was going to die in a minute if he didn't get a drink. And he just picks up the green cordial, the premix stuff, and just like swallows like half a liter of it in a go, and then just spits it all over the kitchen. It turns out it wasn't premix. He just drank the straight concentrate, and just like there was. Just
I think he got at least a good gulp. He got a good gulp.
It was like when you see people like scull a beer on a YouTube like viral video, like where they just like open up their gullet and just liquid just disappears somehow.
Yeah, it just went
like
down.
That
the
was
pipes
him. He just like, and just drank all this cordial. There was just green shit all over the walls. And Lincoln and I was just like, it's the funniest thing I've ever said. He's like, don't laugh at me. That could have killed me. And I'm like, even when I was 10,
you can die from diabetes. So
it wasn't
funny,
like, Dad.
Oh.
You drunk cordial concentrate, mate. It wasn't cyanide. Like, you're fine. You're actually okay. Was that mineral turpentine? Was it methylated spirits? You're actually going to be okay. All right?
You're going to be fine, sweetheart.
I found out a weird thing about Kool-Aid. You know, Americans and the Kool-Aid.
Oh, yeah. Drink it deep.
Comes in like a powder. I bought some of that along with my giant tub of red vines that I bought for isolation. And they say for like a little sachet that you put into 2 liters of water, they also say to put in like a cup of sugar into that as well.
Oh, Jesus.
And I'm like, I made it up without the sugar and it's fine. Like, it's fine. Yeah. They want to add a cup of sugar into 2 liters of water.
I did a shoot over there in the States, and when they had they call craft services, which is like the catering. They had all the big spread, and it was just tables and tables and tables of food. And one of the things was that one of the tables was all fruit, like it was all breakfast stuff in the morning, but it was like a whole big couple of fruit platters and stuff like that. And I grabbed a bunch of strawberries and stuff. They'd actually put sugar over all the fruit.
Oh
my God. What?
They put sugar.
No, I heard you. It's just unbelievable.
No, I need to say it again. They put sugar on the fucking fruit.
Yeah, bro. How do you make fruit taste good? God damn.
It's got purple. Purple's a fruit.
Natural sugars? Earth can't be trusted with my flavors.
My palate has a different opinion. Thank you.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
So I want to go, Dr. Zelenka, like we got like what a 30-second like tease of this character, and I knew this actor was coming up into. Is it David Nichol? Is that how you put it?
Yeah.
How do you
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Nichol, I don't know.
Nichol, right? No
like
vowels. It's very unhelpful. And so I knew he was coming
Hang on,
up.
I'll ask.
Here we go.
No, you know that Czech guy in Stargate Atlantis, Zelenka. His name's David Nichol or Nickel. Is that a Czech last name? N-Y-K-L? Could be.
This is brilliant.
Professional. This is awesome.
This is like phone a friend. This is better than Google. Like, we're actually asking a professional. This is the first for Get Into Geek.
We're going with Nickel.
Nickel?
Thank you.
Again, for anyone who's only listening to this, Brennan had a headset that he just puts on and goes, we're going with Nickel.
That was like going to the video
ready to
rep.
launch.
It's like we've got to try. We just don't know. We're going to go to the video rep.
All right, the stock market's back on, boys.
God.
We're on.
That was brilliant. That was excellent. Okay, so David Nichol, and I knew he was coming up, and I've actually Lincoln and I went to a con like a few years ago, and I met him, got a photo with him. He was like, "Mate, love you in the show." I hadn't seen 1 minute of Stargate Atlantis at that point. It's certainly not his. Certainly not his.
It's because he's a bastard.
Just a fair weather fan, mate.
Not David Nichol. Mitchell. Stargate Atlantis.
In saying that, I do know him because he would later go on to appear quite regularly in Maddie's favourite show of all time, Arrow, as a Russian mobster. And he was really good in that. Like, that's the thing. So you see, like, a lot of people with like that kind of like European accent in any sort of American or probably even Australian gear, but any like English-speaking country. They shove in a Russian. It's like we've got whatever actor, and we've like given him 2.5 days of Russian dialect, and you just have to talk a bit like this. And you're Russian, sweet. It's like that's not a Russian accent, whatever. I always wondered with David Nichol because he sounded really good, but I'm like, is he like I don't know? And then I would see him in something else, and he would be some other kind of European. but he'd have a quite convincing accent. And then when I saw him in this, if I hadn't have been reading the subtitles where it said speaking in, Czech, and then I went and Googled him, and he was born in Czech. And I'm like, oh, he actually is European. He's probably grown up with obviously European parents, regardless of how early he moved to America or Canada or wherever. So I like the idea that he's playing someone from his home country, which is pretty cool. But that was a conversation Brandon referenced on our socials the other day, where we went up to him, was giving him the problem. He's working on the other puddle to sort of do basically a test run on the other puddle jumper.
Yeah, he's simulating what Rodney can do in a less stressful situation, I think.
Yeah, and where's whatever. So is there anything I can do to help? He goes, yes. Stop talking, and she just had to f off. And Brendan, I brought that up on our socials and was like, that was your okay, we're going to exhibit A against Weir this conversation. But overall for this episode, I actually found that I really liked
Shut
her.
up.
I liked
Shut up.
No, I did. There were two conversations that she had.
Yes, let's talk about it.
The two conversations, right? One for what's the idiot father of the bloke? What's
Holling?
What?
Holling?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So he's like, oh God, one he comes up and starts talking religion. He's like, we need to pray. And she's like, piss off.
I'm sorry. I can't have this conversation right now.
Why not?
Because we are wasting time.
This is time that Taylor could use to prepare.
All right. You perceive death a certain way. I accept that. In fact, I respect that. But we do not prepare for death. We do everything we can to stave it off. That is who we are.
I am not asking you to suspend your efforts.
No. You want me to tell everyone on that ship that they should expect to die? I will not send them that message. And if you feel that that violates Taylor's personal rights, I apologize. I truly do. But there's nothing I can do about that right now. I have to go.
If you talk to me again and you're wasting my time, this is time we could be saving her. And then, that Kavanaugh scientist comes up and was like, what the hell was all that about before? And she's like, what's wrong? And she goes, hang on, are you actually just embarrassed about how you looked in front of your team? He goes, embarrassed, at least. You made me look like a fool.
What the hell was that?
Excuse me?
I happily left the SGC because I had it up to here with the military running things, and you just busted me like a private.
Don't be so dramatic. Besides, the Air Force doesn't have privates.
Neither do I. You just cut them off. Right in front of my research team.
That's what this is about? You're embarrassed?
Well, humiliated would be a little more accurate.
I haven't worked up to humiliation yet.
I just assumed that with a civilian in charge of the expedition, there would be a little bit more...
A civilian is in charge. And we are cut off from Earth, which makes Atlantis almost like a colony, doesn't it?
I suppose.
Well, I'm governor of that colony.
No, that's all very well and good.
Do you have a problem with that?
You're missing my point.
No, you're missing mine. If you waste one more minute, which could be used to help the people trapped on that ship because of your ego, I promise you I will dial the coordinates of a very lonely planet where you can be as self-important as you want to be. You think I'm kidding?
You wouldn't do that.
Kavanaugh, get back in there.
We'll talk about this later.
Never again. Go. Go.
The only thing I think it was missing, I don't know whether it was so much about her character. I guess it has to be her character because of the way that she was written and directed. But I kind of feel like it should have been something that was better written and directed rather than being the character itself's fault. Is that she should have been moving, at least by the time with Kavanaugh, she should have been moving when she's having that conversation because it was more minutes into the problem and less minutes they had to solve it. I'm like, if you're yelling at him for wasting your time, you spent 90 seconds arguing with him, you should be doing that on the fly. But I actually thought she's like, these are two bullshit conversations she's having to put up with when she's really trying to do her best. Back to back. So I'm like, I didn't even think about what Brendan brought up on socials the other day until he did that. And I'm like, yeah, fair enough. I like that. That's fine.
No, look, my favorite parts of those were the cutaway moment when he's like, oh, you humiliated me. And she's like, and then you can see like other staff people like turning to watch the argument. And she's like, I haven't even worked my way up to humiliation yet. The only part I didn't like is the moment where she's like, oh, Atlantis is like a colony. And I thought she was going to say, and I'm like the Queen Bee. I'm like, don't say it, don't say it. And even the governor line was still a little bit like, what? That was the part I wished like they could have cut out. But the rest of both of those conversations she had, I loved. And the best part about it is they were actually added after the fact. So the episode actually came in short. and those scenes were actually filmed like 2 weeks later. Like Brad Wright wrote those.
Right. Maybe that's why there wasn't that urgency to have her walking.
Right.
Through them, like they'd sort of, not that they would forget, but for all intents and purposes, they forgot. I just think for Kavanagh, like, just with that bullshit like haircut that he's got going on, immediately
just slimy,
like,
greasy,
the ponytail, like the greasy, slimy, like pulled back to within an inch of its life, and then the thin glasses going on. He looks like he's a henchman of Hans Gruber in Die Hard 1. Like, he should have been like
a kitty fiddler.
The third brother of those, the two blonde guys that, one takes revenge for his brother. Like, the ho, I've got a machine gun. He should be the third brother in that. Like, that's exactly what he looks like. Immediately, I don't like him or trust him. And then he comes up going, yeah, you disagreed with me. How dare you? Let's talk about it. It's like, not only are you wasting 90 seconds now, you spent 2 minutes looking for me. That's like, and then 2 minutes to get back. This is 5-6 minutes you could have spent solving the problem. You're going to actually prove yourself to be redundant by the end of this issue. And I don't have a need for you anymore. You can become a bloody janitor in some unopened part of the city from now on, you piece of shit.
He looks like a sex offender. The reason he got the job in Atlantis is because if he tried to move anywhere else, he'd have to go and tell all his neighbors about his history. So it was just easier to move to another galaxy. Like,
I like that. Like, it's like, I left the SGC because there was so much bureaucracy there. And I'm like, yeah, okay, buddy. Left. Sure. Yeah.
He does have that one.
Let's not mention the court order, shall we?
I love it. I love the Jan Brady walk away at the end where he's flicking his ponytail.
Where he does the whole, where he goes the whole, we'll talk about this later. And then she's just like, go on. Yeah.
Like, we just had back-to-back conversations with two guys with ponytails and owned them both. Like, that's
and he's apparently in such urgency that then at the end he's like, doing that. We'll talk about that. And she's like, looking forward to it. She's like, go. And he's just sitting there staring her down.
Yeah,
and she's like, go. And he just looks like if he could look any more like a fucking creeper. To his credit as an actor, he nailed the creepiness.
Yeah, because I hate him in everything I see him in. Every time I see him, I'm like, that's fucking Kavanagh. He needs to die. But it's like they do try and bring him back at the end by him being the one to almost save the day at the end by being the first one to come up with the idea to eject like the door of the puddle jumper to push him through the gate. But the next time you see Kavanagh, you just hate him even more. So it doesn't actually give you anything to actually want to like him at all. He's just pure hatred.
I've only watched the episode yesterday. I forgot that he was the guy that suggested that, but I do remember the other bullshit. So you're right. Next time I see him, I'm gonna hate him by default. Yeah. And okay, not to piss both of you off because that was about Weir, but like,
my rebuttal to that would be that you've chosen the three worst characters of Stargate Atlantis and butted them up against each other, and she won. Okay, the other two are worse. I agree.
The unfortunate thing for Dr. Weir, aside from her outfit, was also the fact that at the start, and I think this was her being a victim of the writing because logically she was kind of the only one that they could give the line to. You got to remember, she ran the SGC for at least a couple
4 days.
A month. Well, no, remember she was also in charge.
Maybe 5 days.
I think it was 7 weeks or something.
Yeah, she was in charge while Jack was frozen. Remember, between seasons 7 and 8. So it would have been a couple of months or whatever.
I think it was 7 or 8 weeks. I think.
Yeah.
Jackson said.
And in this episode, she's like, what do you mean Stargates can only be open for 38 minutes?
Yeah.
Bitch, you ran the SGC. That's like Stargate 101.
And, I think that like that for me is one of those dumb things where that's purely there for a new audience. Someone who hasn't watched SG1, but they're going, hey, Atlantis, it's this brand new show. People go, oh, sick. Okay, sweet. I'll watch that. So they're telling a new audience a piece of information. But how do you, like Brad Wright, as the writer of this episode, how do you give that line to that character? Like, why can't you give it to Holly, give it to anyone else that we don't like already on the show?
Give it to Shepard.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, like he might have learned a lot about the gate in the last however many weeks he's been there. But something as simple as the length of which a Stargate can remain open, that might have just been like it's so obvious they don't even cover it in a way. So you're right. It could have been absolutely.
It could have been. It could have been Shepard or Ford or Taylor.
While she's looking after him, like we haven't got enough time. Why haven't you got enough time? We've only got this until the thing automatically closes down. Like she's an alien who lived in a village in the middle of this planet. All of a sudden, she's in space, suspended halfway between like this thing that's going to transport her across the gate. Like all this should be so scary and foreign to her, just to add that extra time element to the fear and the reality of the situation. You're probably, she probably would have been the best one, yeah. But it's so annoying that we're like, for all the steps that, okay, she might have been the best of, the lesser of three evils, as Brennan said, but then you give her some bullshit line like that. It's like, oh my God, one step forward, 4 steps back. Like, come on.
The thing for me was when they went through the gate, Ford was actually in the forward section of the ship at the start. Yeah. So I was like, oh shit, right. They don't even have Ford in this episode. This is going to be great. So then, then all of a sudden, like McKay drags him back. I'm like, what are you doing? Throw his hand back in there. Like, what? Why? I found that really interesting, though, that Ford, almost his entire body was already in the event horizon except for his hand, but they were able to pull everything back out. So essentially, the way that we've seen it, especially in the movie, when you look at Daniel Jackson, half his face is in the event horizon, and then he turns into molecules.
Yeah.
So just imagine most of Ford doesn't exist until McKay pulls him back through the event horizon, which I think is fucking cool.
Yeah, the closest we've seen to that was that was it Shades of Grey, when Jack pretends to go and join the NID and he busts that off-world team and the Asgard come in to take all their gear, and he's like, I'll be on the other side holding the door open, and he's standing in the SGC with his arm through the gate to keep it open.
Yeah, and that's only up to his elbow.
Yeah, that's the most we've ever seen. We've never seen... Ford is basically the flip side of that. Everything except his, that far from his arm up is outside the gate. That's pretty cool.
The thing about O'Neill, so was he at the exit gate when he stuck his hand back through?
Yeah, so he went through the gate completely. So it can happen both ways. Yeah, so like, at least with the Ford situation, that was an entrance point of the gate. Like they were dialing out. So it's one thing to say, okay, well, anything that goes through here is like, you're coming back in the exit, you die as soon as you go through the wormhole. You go through the entrance, you dematerialize and you appear on the other side, except in the case of Ford, where if just even the tiniest little bit of you remains undematerialized, then you can be brought back. But I was thinking, shit, what if it worked the opposite on the other side? If you're in the exit, anything that goes back into an exit gate would just be disintegrated straight away. So I'd forgotten about that with O'Neill. I knew that had happened, but I thought he'd done that like in the entrance. So that's interesting that it can work both ways. That as long as the entirety of an object or a physical being doesn't go through, the effect doesn't take place. That's why you never want to mess up your entry orifice and your exit orifice.
Oh, mate, that's a golden rule, though. I feel like that's not a Stargate thing. That's a life lesson, guys.
And I feel what Brendan said before.
I think if you take anything from this podcast, take that with you. Put that on a shirt, text it to your friends, tattoo it on your arm.
And like what Brendan said before, to do with Lantian technology, if you go half in, you got to go full in. And I agree with that.
Yeah, not just the tip.
Don't stop halfway. You got to get that puddle jumper all the way through, if you know what I mean.
You 100%.
You got to punch.
Are we still talking about Stargate?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, oh, right, okay, right.
And then shoot off a few drones, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah. Just retract those pods and fire. Don't you hate it when your pods get stuck in the side of the Stargate? Like,
mate, my pod doesn't even touch the sides.
You're so far in, your pod's on each side are just scraping up.
People think I'm retracted, mate, but I'm not retracted.
I'm already ready to go.
No, but I actually thought, like, again, the slightly lesser of the three, no, really, but like Ford, while he might not have contributed too much, it was like, well, at least he tried a lot in this episode. Like he was doing
much.
Yeah, well, sure, but at least
there's that line where he's like,
emergency situation. Like his superior is like laying there dying, and he is trying everything. He's relaying as much detail as he can back to the doctor.
Too much.
Trying to.
Well, he's adding too much drama. Ma'am, Puddle Jumper 1 is lodged in the Stargate.
I never hated Weir, but for me, if throws the two characters that at least Brendan doesn't like and one that Maddie doesn't like, and it's mutual between you two, I'm like, this is redemption round for me for Weir and Ford as a collective.
Yeah.
But it might have been because there were three other people that we didn't like even more than them two.
Yeah.
But I thought
I don't
I
hate
was all right.
Ford. He's just there. They like
He's there. He's nothing.
the writers forget what to do with Ford, so I forget about Ford all the time.
Yeah.
It's just like, and Ford came along.
How about McKay's hunger? Like all he has to do is like 38 minutes. And when they're literally like dabbing things on the bug and stuff, like to put things this and that. And he's just like talking about how he's going to have a hypoglycemic reaction if they don't chuck him a power bar.
Yeah. So
My favorite line of his when he goes, "If anyone needs me, I'll be 3 feet over here."
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, that's a good one.
That's perfect, McKay.
But what I was waiting for, because they like emptied their pack, like, tell me everything you've got. And they're like, okay, well, we've got this pack, we've got a lighter, we've got, this, we've got ammunition, we've got a chocolate bar, we've got blah, blah, blah. So they mentioned chocolate bar, which I sort of like, for some reason, I'm like, why would you mention that? Okay, they're mentioning everything they've got. And then when McKay's like, I'm going to go into some, I'm going to have a thing, give me that chocolate bar. Are you serious? You're solving a problem. Yes, I'm going to have this reaction. Give me the chocolate bar. And I'm like, there's another 2 times. And then when like nothing's working, the salt isn't working, whatever's not working, all this shit's not working on that bug. And I'm like, here we go. Somehow the chocolate bar's going to save the day. Like, they're going to,
it's cocoa, man.
Yeah, imagine if the bug was allergic to cocoa and McKay had f***ed them all.
That's what I mean. It's like,
Eating
I'm like, well, I'm waiting for this chocolate bar. And it went nowhere. And I'm like, so that chocolate bar was literally just there to make McKay look like he needs that at any given moment. Like that's his character. Like he's like, oh, what? Seriousness? No. I would love a Mars bar. Give it to me right now. So I was, they duped me. Brad Wright got me. I was waiting for that like chocolate bar to save the day.
And they do that a lot with McKay is, because he was such an unlikable character in SG1. And they're not just like writing him completely differently. It's like they're still giving him those selfish moments where he's like,
his qualities.
Give me the chocolate bar. But in this episode, for me, his little quick throwaway redeeming moment is like there was that whole thing with Kavanaugh when he was, blinded like, there's going to be this feedback pulse through the Stargate and it's going to translate through the gate and we're all going to die. As McKay's about to, try his next trick, he's like, oh, Elizabeth, this would create a feedback loop. If I tell you to activate the shield, don't hesitate. And that was his one selfless moment of redemption for me in this episode, that it's just that little bit extra to make us McKay grow on us a little bit, but it still doesn't seem out of character from the rest of him being very selfish in his classic McKay. So they slowly build little bits and pieces like that through the series to make McKay, even though he's quite grating, still a very likable character.
I'd like to that moment, when whatever information he got, and they're like, he's like, oh well, that's just taken me from 1 in a million to 1 in 1,000. And I think McKay, when we first met him, that would have just been a negative to a negative. But this McKay is like, no, you've actually just given me a better chance. It's still like 1 in 1,000, but it's better than it was. And so that was
you're telling me there's a chance.
And then at the end where, they're looking at the problem solved, the ship's back and Shepard's on the mend, he's on the bed, I think they were all attending to him, and it was McKay and Weir next to each other, and she just sort of gave him a nudge and said, nice work. And he's like, thank you. And I'm like, the last time you guys spoke, you were fighting, and like, credit where credit's due. She thanked him, and he's like, I'm not really angry at you, so thank you for recognizing that. So I thought that was like, it was 2 seconds, but I thought that was really nice for those two characters to wrap up the tension they'd had for the rest of the episode.
That's because Weir's so awesome, simple as that.
Bullshit.
Absolutely.
That's what I was saying last week, and Link wasn't with us then, but I was just saying last week, McKay, they don't change McKay. He's a dickhead in SG1. He's a dickhead in this. But the best thing is they don't change him, but he grows as a character.
Yeah.
And to the point for me where I actually, when I see him in SG1 on a rewatch, I fucking love him. And I just wanted to know, in terms of Lincoln, do you like McKay? And B, when you go back to watch SG1, do you like him?
I do like McKay, and I love how he's the kind of guy in SG1. He's the kind of guy you love to hate, purely because he owns everything who he is. He doesn't try to He's kind of like the thinking man's Kavanaugh. You know what I mean? Like he's
like Kavanaugh with a brain.
With a brain. Like he's
and
so intelligent, and like in the 48 Hours episode where he comes in and him and Carter are just like trying to figure out what to do and this and that. And she says something, and he's got not only wit, but he's basically on the same intellectual level as she is. She's that little bit smarter, but
Yeah.
like he can match her level, and they're still going. And then like, but he knows how to grind her gears purely because he's always used to being the smartest guy in the room. So he can be very like condescending and chauvinistic.
I've always had a
and,
thing
like,
for dumb blondes.
Oh,
I was thinking the same lines.
and she's like, go suck a lemon. And then like, even after she says go suck a lemon, which is the only thing that can kill him. And she walks away and he's like, so sexy, so sexy. And then just goes back to like eating his food. Like, and even the way he eats his food and is just like, he's so like engorging. He's just like really getting stuck into it. Yeah. So like, I do like McKay, and the fact that there's these little traits that he carries from day dot all the way up until the very end of Atlantis, like the way he snaps and loses it, but like they give him a lot. You're absolutely right, they give him a lot of journeys that helps him grow as a character, and you know, but you never see him sway from who he is. You just see him just evolve as a character, which is the perfect journey. And
something that I like, and I don't know whether it's a good piece of writing or a bad piece of writing as far as production goes, but like a big point in this episode is that the door in between the front half and the back half of the Puddle Jumper isn't airtight. Like McKay's going on about how it's going to seep out slowly like a screen door in a submarine. Well, by the end of the season, every single one of the Puddle Jumpers is airtight. Like the front half is airtight from the back half. So it's like either the production has forgotten this episode and they've just decided when it's convenient, they're going to be airtight. But in my mind, my internal thing is like, well, after this happened, McKay's now like assigned a team to make every single one of those Puddle Jumpers airtight so that this doesn't happen ever again.
Yeah, because the ancients wouldn't have thought about that.
Yeah. He's like, hey, can you take that ancient technology and improve on it, please? That'd be great.
Yeah, just go and get some rubber seals and just whack them around every single door in every one of those Puddle Jumpers we've got.
Yeah. I wonder if there's like a local Pegasus Bunnings or something like that.
Yeah, there's got to be something they can fix it with.
It's funny. It's like for the race that created the Stargates and all this untold technology that we're, you know, like the Asgard, like we've only barely scratched the surface of shit that they could have done. They have some flaws going on with their tech. Let's face it.
I think they bring them up. I mean, next season or the season after, they just talk about how arrogant the ancients were, and when they don't think about things that fuck up all the time.
So the problem, whether it be like mechanical fault, so it's the ancients, or the fact that it hasn't been used in 10,000 years or whatever, or it was user fault, but the winglet thing's not retracting. My issue was like, I knew something was going to happen. I didn't know why it was 38 minutes. I didn't know the fact they got stuck, but I was waiting for something to happen because it was so obvious in the pre-credit scene, because that ship took so long to get to the gate. Like only 3 episodes ago, on the same planet, we saw the same Puddle Jumper going towards the same gate, and it was having to avoid ships again. And it got there so quick, or if it didn't get there quick, you could see why. And it was that far away, it was little. By the time they actually dialed it, it opened up. They were just like, okay, we're nearly there. Oh,
yeah, and old mate Pilot was like,
it's like he was still in first gear, and he's just got his foot on the accelerator, and he's just old lady grannying it down the driveway.
Yeah. I mean, where do you want to
driving test?
Well, that's when that.
Whether you want to say they're taking it easy because Shepard's injured, but then again, they're all equipped with inertial dampeners, so it's sweet anyway.
Well, but that's what Taylor comes up at the start and goes, "Can this go any faster?" And the guy goes, "We're just trying to get you there in one piece, ma'am." Obviously, that's his first attempt at going through the gate. But in terms of Atlantean technology, as far as we know, especially from the pilot, is that Shepard will just drive up and he's just thinks of a fucking turkey sandwich. So if you, and it'll appear.
Yeah.
So if you can
and there
just
is
think,
a line
I'm going
at the
through
start,
the gate, then you're going through the gate. You don't need to fucking slow down.
And there's a line at the start where Ford
Is he an airman?
says,
Is he an airman, this guy? Fucking hell, go fast.
Well, there's a line at the start where Ford says it's all automatic from here. So it's like, so why don't you just put your foot on the gas?
Yeah.
And do, I mean, they do kind of play around with the idea that, one of the reasons might be because the pod, the reason it got wedged is because it was damaged from the battle with the Wraith, like it was getting fired. So maybe it couldn't go at full speed because it was damaged, but that's the responsibility of the episode.
They didn't say
that. Yeah, that's the responsibility. It is another one of those like perfect chaotic things that happens. It's like in 1969, we just happened to be dialing from one point to another and just happened to have the solar flare happen at the exact moment for us to get flicked back to 1969. And it's the same thing with the Puddle Jumper. It's like if those pods had retracted like an inch less, we would have made it through. And if they'd gone an inch wider, we would have just like bumped into the gate and sort of bounced back or whatever. But it just happened
the gate probably would have spun away into space and then recovered with the
it has its little rocket
things.
Yeah, fix itself.
Yeah, so it's like it just happened to be that perfect amount where the pods were out just enough to just scrape down the sides. I mean, we all wish we had that little bit of girth to just scrape the sides. But
story of my life.
Right.
But the thing is too, we have the external shot from space, and then we hear the as it's scraping along the gate. I'm like, okay, I guess we can hear that.
I mean, mine's like a puddle jumper in a super gate. It's never going to scrape the sides. So,
so we're just talking about the start, and then just to shoot to the end. There was that moment where Shepard's there going, "I just want to tell you something. And Weir's like, "Tell me when you get it, soldier. You're going to be back. Don't talk like that." He's like, "No, it's like super important." And then shit happens. He can't tell her. And then he's on the bed at the end. She comes in and goes, "So, what were you going to say?" And everyone's around, and he says, "Oh, just to." Stay true and look after each other, And then everyone else leaves, and she says, "Obviously, that wasn't what you were going to say. So what was it?" I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, if this is a conversation,
I've always loved United Airlines.
For me, right? If this is Jack and Sam, I'm like, that's another one of these moments where he's gonna say that he loves her, and she knows, and that's why they're both safe. And she goes, "Oh, well, what was it? You can tell me now." And him like, "No, I can't do that now because I'm not going to die." I'm like, these guys have known each other for about 4 days, and they've pretty much yelled at each other every time they've had a chance. He's not telling her he loves her. So, like, what actually, genuinely, was he going to tell her that was that important in his deathbed? Taking away the possibility and the chance that it was just an induced thing from that insect sucking the life out of his neck. He was legitimately going to tell her something. What was that going to be?
He was going to tell her he wishes he was scraping the side of her Stargate.
Probably.
No.
There is this weird
thing. Can't even entertain that.
There is this weird thing, though, where they turn
Never going to happen.
They turn Shepard into this man slut, because it's like for the whole series, he's like having this weird flirtatious thing with Weir, but he also has this weird flirtatious thing with Taylor.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, pick one, mate. Just pick one. Like,
no, mate, he's a player.
Yeah, he's exactly right.
In another galaxy. He's got birds hanging about.
And then I don't know if maybe he's just naturally a flirt. Maybe it was never written that way. It's just Joe Flanagan being a natural flirt. And
obviously, look at him. He's a
knocking the charm
beast.
on.
Yeah, he's a
Jesus
Christ. Weapon.
Like he's thrown that spear around a few times. We know that.
Well, imagine like all of a sudden,
shut off the old staff weapon.
Imagine they get to the Pegasus, and then there's just a massive chlamydia outbreak, and all they just round up everyone from the SGA. They're just everyone's just like,
swear Taylor,
like, did you just bear back someone again from the state, man?
Full medical investigation to try and find out where it came from, where the spread was. It turns out the fucking what are those people called?
Is it Holland or some shit? Just being quite ninja.
What I was going to say is that the benefit of, I don't know where this came from, but the benefit of SG-1 as opposed to Atlantis is that they can just close the iris, and it's a manual thing. It's not taking up any power when the iris is closed. But in Atlantis, especially in Rising, Part 1 and 2, is that they run out of energy so much. And you can just imagine when they put the force field up to stop anyone coming through the Stargate, that they have to use so much energy from the Naquadah generators. Like, we don't even get any more Naquadah generators. Do they last forever? Like, we've never really gone into the science of these Naquadah generators. And
they do later. They get smaller until there's like a Mark II Naquadah generator and a Mark III Naquadah generator and stuff like that, where they increase power consumption and stuff like that.
But it's not like
very offhand comment.
Atlantis has a 3-year supply of power or anything like that.
Yeah, no. I think they deliberately do that so not to write themselves into a corner where they can just keep it vague. Same with the city. Like, you really, aside from the control room, you don't really know where anyone is at any given moment around the city, because I think they just want to leave. And there's never really been any proper schematics to give you size. Like, there's so many varying fan theories about the size of Atlantis, like what its diameter is and all that kind of stuff. Because they just keep everything vague. Like, you go to Star Trek and they're like, okay, an Intrepid class starship is 350 meters, it's 15 decks, it's blah 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 blah. Stargate never does that. We don't know how big the Prometheus is, the Daedalus is, Atlantis is.
But I think I've heard a lot of fan theory saying that Atlantis is basically the size of Manhattan.
Yeah,
well,
I saw them say that. It was like, it was in the first episode they said that. Yeah.
But
there's a line when
I don't want to ruin it.
It's like having to search every room in Manhattan, but it's nowhere near as big as.
It's not that big because, and I don't want to spoil it for everything, but just think of the finale. That's all I'm going to say.
Exactly, and I've looked that up. I reckon if anything, it'd be about the same square meterage as like Central Park in the middle of Manhattan.
Yeah.
Like if you compare that, like because Manhattan, Central Park is quite long and skinny, so it's like if you cut it in half and sort of did it.
Big, man. That park's huge.
Yeah, well, I reckon that'd be about as big as Atlantis would the room that would cover. But obviously, there's a lot of buildings in there as well. So.
Well, that's a bit shit if it's apparently the crown jewel of the civilization that created the fucking Stargate.
Yeah,
like the minimal.
I think the way, I think intentionally, I think throughout the whole series that it was meant to be Manhattan, but I think the finale ruined that.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, you're on point.
Yeah, even when you see, if I get into the Daedalus and that kind of stuff, probably ruin stuff. But
it's gigantic.
We'll talk about it when it comes up.
There's speculation. Let's just say that.
Speculation.
I'm willing to speculate.
Yeah.
I love to speculate. Speculate my brain.
But yeah, all in all, it was an okay episode. Definitely wasn't up there with my favorites. I think if we were to, this will be, just to sort of give it a quick little recap, it would be in my bottom section.
Really?
Season, yeah.
Wow. I would say it's better than last week. Like, it was better than Hide and Seek, like the previous episode. In very much in the way that we've talked about in the past, everyone forgets that Kowalski episode at the start of SG1. Everyone always thinks of the opener and then Emancipation. I always think of Atlantis as Rising and then 38 minutes. I always forget about Hide and Seek in the middle. I feel like this should have been the first episode after the
you guys said that because of the team thing. Like, this felt very much like it was a ragtag group going back to the planet, whereas last week it was like, this is our team, this is sick, and you guys were like, when did you pick the team between Rising and Hide and Seek? This feels really strange. Whereas I guess the start of this episode, like that would make sense if it was a direct follow-up to Rising where they've escaped Taylor's planet or whatever. And then this has flashbacks, them going back just to check shit out. And that's probably what you, would do. Like, it would be a direct follow-up, much like The Enemy Within was a direct follow-up to Children of the Gods. Yeah.
I guess the thing we didn't really touch on either was the fact that the Wraith mothership left the planet that they were on in the pilot.
Yeah.
So that entire huge crater, or the thing they called the mountain, was part of the ship. So all the trees and everything were covering the mothership, and it's now since left orbit or left the planet entirely. Crater. That was kind of like, it was really cool part of the episode, and it was the thing that I liked best about it, that it was kind of a throwaway thing on the recap, which is, it just fills in the universe really nicely and moving forward. But in terms of this episode as a whole, I really enjoy it, and I think, like Mitch was saying before, the fact that that it's this new law in terms of the gate law, it's a really good establishing fact in terms of, it's the spin-off, but it can still give you that gate tech, that heavy gate tech that we've never seen before in SG1 even. In terms of going through the Stargate, the fact that it's 38 minutes, we already know, but the whole idea of the Puddle Jumper being able to get through in one kind of single unit, whereas the internal parts don't really matter. So I like it for that, and I like it for the world building stuff. But I'm kind of with Link, probably top of the bottom in the middle somewhere.
I'm just looking through the season. I think it'll be probably in my middle section. There are some stinkers this season.
Yeah, it's better than Emancipation, but I don't know where I'd kind of compare it to in terms of SG1, really.
Yeah, that's very hard to try and compare to SG1.
It's
aside from the obvious, like 48 hours kind of thing. It's Atlantis's 48 hours.
Yeah, it is.
And in a lot of ways, like you think about
and actually, it's Atlantis's Bane. Let's not forget
there's
that.
a little bit of that. And
it
is very indicative of something that Atlantis does. It's almost like Atlantis is SG1 on fast forward. Like if you think about 48 hours wasn't until like what, season 4? Season 5, maybe something like that.
Tilk had the goatee, was it? That season?
Yeah, because he had his big cannon or something as well.
Yeah, season 4, yeah.
Killed old mate.
And then also one of my favourite episodes and the one episode Mitch hasn't seen, the first ones, that's like season 4. And it's like, that's season 4 when we find out we go to that prehistoric Goa'uld planet and there's all the symbiotes in the water and stuff. We're finding out like episode 3, episode 4, depending on what you want to call it. They've already made this connection with the Aratus bug being like an ancestor or primitive primordial version connected to the Wraith somehow. Like they're already making those connections this early.
Yeah. See, I think...
Whereas SG1, we had to wait for like season 4 for that kind of stuff to happen. So it is kind of on fast forward a little bit.
So I think what they've kind of done a good job of is like, obviously in the first season of Atlantis, they kind of go, okay, this is going to be anyone who's tuned into Stargate SG1 is going to tune into this just purely because they love the show. There's going to be some others which go, oh, cool, what's this? I'm going to tune into it. But watching this, you're kind of going to have a very good idea of what the show and what the premise is about. And what they do kind of in future seasons is every now and again, they'll drop a little reference going, oh, I remember reading SG1 back on Earth had something to do with this.
Yeah,
something very similar. And they refer to like that just in case it's a newbie watching the show. And they go, oh, yeah, this is something very similar. SG1 experienced something like this.
Which makes it even harder when we hear about those fans that have only watched Atlantis and have never seen SG1. It's like, how do half these episodes make sense?
There's a lot as well.
Like you are missing out on the fandom.
I think it's Adam Barnard. He's part of Gateworld. His first introduction to Stargate is actually SGU.
Oh,
wow!
Which is amazing.
So little sense. It's amazing that he became a fan of Stargate.
It's amazing that he liked it. Yeah.
I was about to say it's all from there.
I mean, especially the way with Universe goes in terms of the communication stones and stuff. That's such a strange concept to someone just new to a franchise.
And the gate dialing at the start, I won't spoil it for Mitch who hasn't seen Universe, but...
Yeah, it wouldn't make any sense.
The gate dialing at the start is a big deal. Like, that's something we've waited, 15 years or whatever it was to hear about, and they're doing it straight up in Universe. So
Yeah, it's pretty cool. There's a lot of fandom of Atlantis. That haven't seen SG1. Speaking of, check this shit out.
Oh, yeah.
He's got the shirt on.
Oh, mate, I want to jam my puddle jumper into your gate.
God, yeah. Let's do it.
Pound it.
I'll fly my glider straight into there.
Pounding.
Yeah.
Mitchell's just he's just choking it.
He's that guy that gets invited to the threesome that has to sit in the corner and watch.
Just sit there and abuse himself.
I think I got this with like season 3 DVDs, I want to say.
Hell yeah.
I remember getting the mouse pad with the calculator in the top. Like the Atlantis.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I got an SG1 of that.
And then I also remember getting like the latex roll-up keyboard.
Yeah.
The USB keyboard that rolls up.
Oh, yeah, Mitch got that.
And
I remember Mitch got it. I was like, I didn't get that, bitch.
And the magnetic pens.
Covered for like years, and then he's like, I'm not going to have this. I'm like, sick, there's a show I've never watched. I'll keep that.
Yeah. My favourite, and I think I've still got it, is like...
Lincoln's regretting that now. Look at his face. He's regretting that.
A bit of jealousy.
I'm regretting this for some reason. I don't know why I'm doing this. But the floating magnetic pen, you know how it's like the pen that sits in the little magnetic thing and just kind of...
Yeah.
Yeah, I had one of those as well from Atlantis.
The lot of you.
Nice.
I've also got that like the cup warmer. Like it's a USB plug it into your computer, and then you have your cup of tea. You put it on there, and it's a little heat pad, so it keeps tea warm.
Bullshit.
That's cool.
Yep. Don't know how it
Yo, I
works.
got a
I've
staff
used it a
weapon,
couple of
so-
times, and I still, yeah, staff weapon is extremely cool.
Yeah, we got one too. Actually, we're going to give away once we reach 100.
I did see that.
Getting very close too.
Getting super close.
Mm.
We got 92 at the moment, so only 8 to go. So jump on Patreon if you're interested.
Hey, you got
Or don't. We don't really care.
I think this is pretty telling between the difference between me and Link. Link's is a staff weapon. Mine's only a Zat. You know.
I got a Zat.
Yeah.
It was a dick joke. It was a dick joke. It was you've got a staff weapon. I've only got a Zat.
I get you. What you're saying. I get that. It took me a while. Then I took the scenic route, but I got there eventually.
Hey, I got some trivia here.
Oh, here we go.
Okay.
We're on here.
Mitch. All right. 30 seconds on the clock. Time starts after this first question. How long can a wormhole be maintained for?
38 minutes.
Correct. What pain reliever did McKay find in the med kit?
I don't know.
What is the name of the actor that plays Lieutenant Ford?
Oh, Jesus Christ. No, I don't care about the character. I don't care about the actor.
Joe Flanagan plays which character?
John Shepard.
Correct. What is the name of the bug on Shepard's neck?
Uranus. I don't know.
And go back to the actor that plays Lieutenant Ford. Too late. Missed out. All right, so we go back to that.
Nitty.
Wormhole 38 minutes. That was a gimme, really, wasn't it?
Yeah,
That's the name of the
absolutely.
episode. Great people. The pain reliever.
Great people
that
at 38 minutes if they want to
Great
watch the show.
Great people. The people at Tylenol wouldn't be happy with you, Mitch. Tylenol is I think it's
Tylenol
Panadol.
Yeah, it's ibuprofen, I think.
Paracetamol, I think. I don't know.
One of them.
They call it something
Google
different in the States. They don't call it paracetamol. They wouldn't know what we're talking. It's like acetone-polymol or some shit.
Yeah, they got no idea about that. Yeah.
But the thing that annoyed me about that, right?
All right.
They go, what do we have in the med kit? And then they're like, have a look. And then McKay's like, I don't think Tylenol's going to help. What kind of fucking med kit, military med kit, doesn't have morphine?
100%.
Doesn't morphine f you up though? Like,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but
That
dude,
makes you
everyone-
freaking feel amazing.
I feel like they'd go a green whistle. What's it called that the lifesavers have? The green whistle?
Yeah, but that's an Australian invention.
I feel like they should
Yeah,
have
but
that.
like that should be standard issue, or at least a
Yeah.
morphine pen or something, because
Yeah,
that's
the
exactly
pen.
right. No one goes into combat without
Dude,
a morphine pen.
They had that in World War II, 1945. They had the pen. Jabbed some dude in the leg when his guts
Fucking
are
hell.
falling out. Let him feel good. The
Yeah.
name of the actor that played Lieutenant Ford, Rainbow Sun Franks.
Franks.
Big time. Just
Brother
the
to
old
Cree
Franks.
Summer.
I would have accepted Rainbow.
No.
Joe
Goddamn,
Flanagan played John Shepard. You got that. What is the name of the bug? Eratus bug.
I'll take
Eratus.
Uranus bug though. Uranus
Eratus,
bug's pretty
yeah.
good.
We're looking for Eratus.
There's nothing wrong with Uranus though.
Thank you.
There's nothing wrong
Thank
with
you.
it at all. Great
Mate, with
people,
all the
Mitch's
toilet
Uranus.
paper hoarding I've
Yeah.
been doing.
I'll
Great
always
planet
take
if they want to
Uranus. I'll
sponsor the show.
always take Uranus.
Oh, dear. I just wanted to
Pleasure.
ask also, what's with Taylor's hair?
It's a wig. It's one of the
I
many
know
wigs.
that. I know she's a wildling, but for God's sake, get a better wig.
Well, it's because they shot them all out of order. Remember, all these the first 4 or 5 episodes were shot out of order, the same as SG1.
What has that got to do with anything? It looks
Well, because-
terrible.
Because they used the first wig for the Rising, and then this one, and then they had a different wig for last week because that was shot afterwards. And yeah, she goes through about 3 or 4 wigs throughout.
Is that
the
because
season.
her hair's really curly? Because I think they've done that in a few series where if a girl has really curly hair, they chuck a wig on her.
No, I think it's just she's just got a very
And by girl, I mean woman. For those
I think it's just a very short.
females out there.
She's got very short, and it was very cut earthly. She had a very stylish thing, and they're like, "Oh, we need you to look a bit more alien-y." So they wanted to give her that kind of red, that reddish.
Why don't they just give her a Weir's top?
As a rag, it's like a head wrap.
What's the problem? Put Shepard on. Shepard's down. He's got a bug on his leg. Oh, that's a threat. Oh my God. Worst day ever. Shut up.
I I will not stand for this.
Up. So you didn't get them all right, Mitch, unfortunately.
No.
Suck Mitchell.
Yeah, I
suck
do.
Kareem.
I tell you what, I know,
Easy.
like, Rhys thinking, oh, mate, I've done this 150 times. I've done this, 2-3 times now. It's stressful, man. I know what you're talking about. Far out.
The thing is, you probably haven't realised yet that I'm going to do it to you every week, so...
No, but I found middle of this episode, I was like, what was that bug called again? Because I referenced the bug, and I'm like, it was a rain or something like that. And then I didn't even think, oh, shit, that's going to come up in the quiz, because I didn't even think about the freaking quiz coming up. So, no, I'm not used to it.
Yeah,
I'm just very proud of Brennan for not calling it like an eye rapist bug or something like that. Like,
I would never do that, mate. What are you talking about?
Certainly not with his wife. In
Show some decorum, for God's sake.
I mean, it raped his neck, so,
Yeah, we've all been there.
All right, that's episode 159 of Get Into Gate. What are we talking about next week when we go back to Earth, to the Milky Way? We're going back to Stargate SG-1. What now?
Icon. Stand this episode. That's what.
Okay.
Stop it.
It's a Daniel episode. It's a Daniel episode too. The Rand Protectorate, where he gets his leather jacket with the lamb's wool thing around the neck.
Mitch.
Lamb's wool?
Mitch, what's
Daniel
it about?
Jackson is declared MIA as he was in the middle of a world war on Tagalis?
Oh, that's right.
Tagalis.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
okay.
that's right.
Yeah.
Which the rebels have won. Jackson cannot be reach home, and the rebels have taken control of the planet Stargate. He must rely on a small... Yeah, this is like Wolverine Origins.
And about as entertaining.
Well, you've made me really want to look forward to that one, so I look forward to that. And look, I dare say, guys...
Yeah, because we didn't get anything like this in Season 7, so this is why Season 8 isn't as fun.
Yeah, right. Okay, well...
And plus, they're throwing so much cash, they're just funneling cash into Atlantis.
Oh.
Honestly, they'd just rather use sets for SG-1 and really rely heavily on Michael Shanks' acting.
Yeah, right.
Not the writing, but just his acting to save everything.
Even his acting couldn't save Icon.
Yeah.
Here's a blank script. Michael, you're good with this, right? You're good with it. You're going to save this?
Yeah.
Make this happen?
You'd be that, I don't read script, man. Script read me.
Yeah. Richard Dean Anderson likes to improv all the time. Just improv the whole thing, Michael. Come on, show us your chops.
Well, we'll cover that next weekend. I dare say, look, hey, this is our first time doing it remotely from each other. We're going to be doing this for the foreseeable future. So for those long-term listeners of the show, we're always in the same room. We got really good quality equipment and all that. We're recording in a radio station, so it's pretty pristine. It's a bit of a difference, bit of a drop in quality. Not too bad though. This has actually worked out pretty well for a first timer. But bear with us. But I dare say there's a lot of changes going on around the world. So thanks for sticking with us. Even though the podcast is changing slightly, but we didn't want to change as much to not give it to you as we have been once a week. So we're going to be here, and we're doing it at home. So even if we get the Rona, we're probably still going to be good to jump in front of the mic and talk about Stargate. So we'll be back next week talking more Stargate SG-1.
And anyone who's listening or watching, you can now brag to all your friends and say you've been in bed with Lincoln Lewis. So,
Anyway,
I thought you were going to say they've been in Brendan Gibson's garage.
Mate,
Not many people could say that.
Let me park in that.
Marketing your garage.
Not many people escape to tell people about it, though. That's the problem.
Hey, get a load of this oil stain. That's all I'm going to say.
They normally get chopped up and put in the deep freeze that's sitting across on the other wall.
Yeah, he's prepping, mate. Doomsday prepping. With live bodies.
Put the lotion in the basket.
Yeah. In the meantime, before next week's episode, you can check out all of our old podcasts on your favourite podcasting outlet. Just search Get Into Gate, a Stargate podcast. Follow us on the socials, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Some fun stuff while we're having some time away from each other. We're always in contact, but we're not able to see each other every week in the studio. We're having a little bit of fun on the socials and coming up with some fun memes around the Rona, around Stargate. So thanks for everyone getting involved with that. But just follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Get Into Gate, a Stargate podcast, or drop us a line for the old hairy mailbag, getintogate@gmail.com.
Get stuck into that.
We'll probably try and do a mailbag special coming up some early on in this season. But I think also, so. Like I said before, great people on Patreon. We're up to 92 at the moment. So if we get up to 100, we will be doing video content. So if you want to jump on board during your lockdown, jump on, get involved. You'll be able to see our podcast. Firstly, this test to make sure this worked. This will be up on Patreon, and also another Gibson Brothers podcast coming soon.
And I'll be drawing the winner for the big schematic. I should have had it here with me. The big schematic sign, the big blueprint thing of the gate and the Puddle Jumper. I'm giving that away this week, so we'll draw that at the start of the month. We might even announce it on next week's episode. We might announce
maybe just test yourself in case you got coronavirus before you send it. Just in case you're sending it.
Just cough into the tube.
Like on The Simpsons. Yeah.
Ship it.
Yeah. So, jump on board, patreon.com/getintogate and
get
join
stuck
in the fun
into it.
there. Yeah, do it before Lincoln does, because Lincoln actually really wants the schematics. He wants the Puddle Jumper and the Stargate that was in the photo with it. And he's not afraid to say that he'll steal it. So jump on board.
I wanted to steal it. I said I'd kick people that I wouldn't usually kick, and just punch up that line.
Yeah. He didn't say that.
Normal people you kick.
Yeah. He said, I'll kick an old woman for it. I don't care.
I will do things I'll be ashamed of later
He's
in life.
willing to pay the $4 US for it. You got 1 in 100 chance, less than that.
Yeah, boy.
1 in 92 chance.
I'm all over that shit. So I want to get in on that.
Otherwise, grab us individually on the socials. I'm Mitch_Lewis on Twitter and Instagram. Where are you at, Maddie?
At High Pitch Maddie.
Brendan.
And the rest. _.
Had to think about it.
And
I was so about to say at the, just like it. I was going to go again at Link_Lewis. I was actually going to just do it by mistake, so I had to correct myself. That's the thing. The thing with the guys. Yeah.
All right, until next week, Get Into Gate. We'll talk to you more Stargate SG1. Isolation.
ISO edition.
Get Into Geek.